welcome back. Before we look again at the election, let's turn to what is probably India's most visible export in every sense of the word, Bollywood, and to the person described as its biggest megastar, Amitabh Bachchan, better known locally as Big B. Amitabh, you've been at the center of the Indian film industry for many years now, and how would you compare it in size with Hollywood?
Well, to start with, Hollywood started first.
Yes.
And we came afterwards. But then gradually our development, because of the lack of funding, lack of expertise, lack of the expertise in equipment, we were always behind them as far as technology is concerned. We still are. But I think we're rapidly catching up with them. That's as far as the technical side is concerned. But as far as numbers is concerned, I think our numbers are much greater. We make about 1,000 films every year.
Compared to
about
Hollywood.
350 from Hollywood.
What about the difference in the budgets between the films, between a Hollywood
difference.
film and an Indian film?
Huge difference, huge. An average blockbuster Hollywood film would be about $150 million to $200 million as their budget. Ours is, I don't know the equivalent, but we now vary between 10 to 20, 30 crore rupees. And about 4 or 5 crore rupees makes $1 million.
And at the same time, your films, you were saying, reach a larger audience than Hollywood's.
Yes, purely from the point of view of the number of people that see it. I think there are, I'm not sure about these numbers, but about 3.6 billion people watch Indian cinema, as opposed to perhaps 2.8 to 3 billion that watch Hollywood cinema. These are statistics that came out recently from Reuters, so I would like to accept that. But I think that primarily comes from the fact that, 1/6 of the world's population lives in India. So every 6th person in the universe is an Indian.
And are these, there were always stories about the fact that, stories that said that you'd done all of these films and never been kissed, as it were. Are the rules about sex in films the same now, or is India getting more liberal in that way?
We are still very contemporary and very conservative, though in recent years there has been a somewhat lax attitude on the part of the censors in accepting some of the values that are more prevalent in the West. I would put that primarily to the influx of television, a large amount of television, and the great communication gap that has reduced between the Western world and the Eastern world. We get to see almost everything that comes out in the West simultaneously and instantly, thanks to television. And I think that there is an acceptance now to sex and, as you put it, to some of your cultures. But yes, we are still very conservative.
What attracted you to acting?
An advertisement came out during that time I was in Calcutta from 2 prominent film magazines in Bombay, then it was called Bombay, which were seeking applications from youngsters who wanted to join movies. And I felt that this was a wonderful opportunity for me to formally apply. One doesn't know how really one goes about joining the film industry. It's always been a mystery. So I applied for this. I was rejected in the preliminaries. And then somewhere my heart was very keen to go back and join the film industry. So I resigned my job as an executive, went back home to Delhi. My father was there. Spent a year at home idling. And then my brother came across a director who was wanting to cast newcomers in a film. Some members of his friends were going to be auditioning for that role. He knew my interest in joining films, presented my photograph to them. He seemed to like what he saw, called me over, and that's how it all started.
That's how it all began. Tell me, in terms of your life and times, you had a crisis about, I read, about 2000, financial crisis,
Yes.
owing 20 million or whatever, and then you've come out of that. But one of the ways you did that was to host Who Wants to Be a Millionaire in India,
Yes.
and that was brought you back to the top again.
Yeah. Around the mid-90s, I suddenly took a sabbatical. Some people in the family said, you know, you don't need to work so much and so on and so forth. You need to take a break. And so I went off from films for about 5 years. I toured a lot. I just visited countries. I came to Great Britain, went to the United States, lived on my own. It was very interesting. But during that time, there were a lot of feelers that were coming in from important corporations, entertainment corporations from the United States of America, Warner's, 20th Century Fox, Sony, who, to my surprise, had immense knowledge and detail of not just me and my work in the Indian film industry, but the entire Indian film industry in its completeness. It was then that I decided to start what was then a novelty in the entertainment world in India, a corporation. And I named it after myself and went about it very diligently. And our first initial years were very good. We did well, and for a sunrise industry, it was really nice. And then we hosted Miss World, which was very well done, but became a financial disaster. Anyhow, we scraped through that, but we'd lost a lot of money, and I went bankrupt. And many advised me that, you know, in business, when you get bankrupt, you close the company and you move on. But I felt that a company that bore my father's name, I wouldn't want it to die in such a manner. And so I worked at it. And fortunately, almost at the same time, came the offer of wanting to host Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, which was called in Hindi, Kaun Banega Crorepati. And that became a huge success and revived my fortunes economically and in the film industry as well.
Fantastic that you came back so strongly in that way, because in general you concentrated on films rather than television.
Yes, of course. Yes.
And television just stepped into the breach at this particular moment.
Yes. Yeah, the show itself was so powerful and so unique that it just captured the entire television industry. And that's what came through on Indian television. It was a very a show with a lot of finesse, a lot of class, not just in its content, but in the way it was presented, you know, the sets and the costumes and the music and the way it was edited and so on, and that just caught the fancy of the people of India.
And your ability in acting to have pregnant pauses are very important as host.
Oh, yes.
For the suspense, aren't they?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. I mean, that's very key. So what are your plans now for the future, in fact?
I'm continuing to act. It's a little tough at this age, but yeah, but there are some enterprising directors who still feel that I should get some roles to do. So I'm working in films.
Amitabh, it's been a delight talking to you. I've really enjoyed it. I hope we meet again soon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
very much.
Our thanks there to Amitabh. In a few moments after this short break, we'll be talking to the man tipped by many as the next possible Prime Minister of India.